when I looked at that video, and that was the first time I knew that WTC-7 had gone down, when I saw the Jowenko video.
Right.
And I looked at that, and I've seen buildings go down. I've seen some smaller buildings burn. Pieces flake off. They fall off to the side. And I saw that thing go down as a straight arrow, and I heard Jowenko, through the English subtitles on it, not being aware that that was WTC-7 either. Look, what a professional job. Clearly, it's going straight down like an arrow. Period. It's going from the bottom down. That was a controlled demolition. Whatever one might say about the impact and the aftermath of the impact, the maximum burning temperature of jet fuel versus the minimum melting temperature of structural steel, whatever one says about that, that third one going down is not, as I said yesterday on another interview, that's not a smoking gun. That's a smoking artillery brigade. That's it. That is the death of the case. And I looked at that, and I said, now, why? Why is there so much concern in the, and I didn't even know the phrase 9/11 truth movement then. Why is there so much concern among those questioning the government's case on this? I said, you're looking at that. How can you not know it's a controlled demolition? And if it's a controlled demolition, if it was wired for controlled demolition, then the other two buildings were too.
Indeed. This is not, and that might be a good place to take a pause here. We have reached the halfway point, ready for a 5-minute break, and I'm sure the audience has probably agrees so far. They've all seen Building 7, and it is the Achilles heel of the official story. We'll be back in a moment for more. I'm Kevin Barrett. I'm talking with Dr. Alan Sabrosky, former director of the U.S. Army War College. We'll be right back.
You're listening to No Lies Radio, coming to you 24/7 from the San Francisco Bay Area north of Berkeley. Your radio station for the truth, peace, justice, freedom, and more power to the people.
Welcome back. This is the Kevin Barrett Show on No Lies Radio. No Lies is based in Berkeley, and I will be in Northern California later this week, flying out tomorrow. If you want the details, please check out my website, truthjihad.com. I will be talking in Santa Cruz tomorrow night, and I'll be in San Francisco, Berkeley, on Thursday, and then doing talks in Sacramento on Friday and Saturday. Once again, that's truthjihad.com. Well, today I'm talking with Dr. Alan Sabrosky, the kind of latest and most controversial military affairs expert to jump in to the 9/11 truth controversies with his unequivocal statement that the Mossad from Israel did 9/11. All kinds of flack flying around in the truth movement because of that. By the way, I need to correct his title. He was the Director of Studies of the Strategic Studies Institute at the U.S. Army War College. I left a couple of those studies out the first time. So, Alan, yeah, I agree with you. Building 7 is the smoking gun, the Achilles heel. It's the one that you just can't, you can't see how anybody could miss it. But then how do we go from all of these pieces of evidence that you've cited and the many more I'm sure that you've seen to the hard and fast conclusion that this was the Israeli Mossad, given that so much of this happened, under the watch of various American officials?
The two are not mutually exclusive, and the statement that I made was very direct, and I meant it. It was also incomplete. And an article I'm finishing up, and I've got off to the editors for publication in a few days. We'll develop that in greater detail. Let me sort of work through, if I could, how I came into that conclusion.
Okay.
We've got WT7 absolutely as a controlled demolition. By extension, logically, if it was wired for demolition, so were the other two. But even if we just take WT7, okay? Let's just take WTC7. What is absolutely clear is that even if giving the government the benefit of the doubt, which is something I don't do as April 15th approaches, but giving the government the benefit of the doubt on this, even if there were 19 Arab hijackers of some name in those 4 planes, neither they nor the remaining al-Qaeda apparatus on the ground had the expertise or access to wire a single building for controlled demolition. They could not have done it.
Agreed.
They could not have done it. I mean, the security people for the World Trade Center, Kroll Associates, I mean, the notion that somehow there would be a group of Arabs wandering around inside World Trade Center buildings, opening up the walls, putting in demolition, stringing the cables and the detonators, on buildings that were occupied and secured 24/7 is a little bit past my comprehension.
Well, it's not past Noam Chomsky's comprehension. He actually told me that if we prove that these were demolitions, that just proves that bin Laden did it.
Well, you have to understand, I was an unreconstructed Marine Corps Vietnam veteran, and Noam Chomsky was one of those I would have put alongside Jane Fonda.
Okay.
Okay. Whatever his positions here, and in fact I've mentioned to a couple of people that, I find myself on the same side of the Palestinian issue with Noam Chomsky, and I was all, and that made me as uneasy as John Ashbrook, very conservative Republican congressman, when he said he'd vote on an issue, and he and Bella Abzug would be on the only side of the issue, and they would look at each other and wonder which one of them was wrong. But someone,
in this case, you're right, and Chomsky's wrong about 9/11.
I think I would be on this one on it, and it's not just that. There's a lot of demolitions people out there in the world. This is not like people who can put out fires in oil fields. There's a lot of demolitions experts out there in the private sector as well as in military and intelligence agencies. So I mean, the expertise was there to do it. The access wasn't there. I mean, the al-Qaeda people simply would not have had the access to get into these buildings, do it, and set it up. Remember, think of their skill levels. Think of the skill levels that I mentioned earlier. Slug explosives into a truck, hit a building or a ship. Tie explosives to you, blow it. From there to a very sophisticated wiring, and it had to be wired carefully so the building went down, straight down, This wasn't just putting explosives on one side and blowing it over.
These were the tallest buildings ever demolished.
Yeah, but
even 7.
Right, but even seven, which was third after the other 2, but even building 7, that came down like an arrow, and that took a remarkable degree of sophistication and skill to be able to do that. So expertise, lots of it out there, but not al-Qaeda. Nothing we've seen since indicates that any of them have that. Not what they've done, not their subsequent attacks, not these IEDs supposedly popped alongside roads. Nothing.
Not even the underwear bomber?
Oh, let me tell you, they just had something on the news this morning about a new concern about terrorists using breast implants with explosives, and God knows what they're going to do with that. If you had a Dolly Parton out there, you could probably take down another World Trade Center building.
It's really pretty pathetic to go from blowing up 3 giant skyscrapers and hitting the Pentagon somehow to blowing up little pieces of people's sensitive bodily parts.
Oh, but it does a wonderful job, particularly over the holidays. Think about that, of keeping the threat up. Orwell's 1984 comes to life. It keeps people's apprehension up, justifies more concerns. All the anxieties go up. People get unhappy. It's a wonderful time to do it, and there's no loss, except for the person who's doing it.
Okay, so back to those demolitions.
So we've got the access.
Okay.
Third, so someone other than the people in the planes and al-Qaeda had to do it, simply as a function of the security, the access, the control, motivation. One of the first things that I was taught many, many years ago in intelligence school, in the Marines, and that is not an oxymoron. Marine intelligence is not an oxymoron. And later, as a strategic analyst, is when you're looking at a situation, the first thing you ask yourself is, who benefits?
Right.
Who benefits? Who's going to win?